this planet to compensate me for the satisfaction that I get doing what I do.
Right.
And it all came from my own personal experience, very similar to what's been described here. Um, I went from zero to 100%, then peeled back to 40%, and then up to 100%. And the phrase life affecting, life changing is so applicable.
Absolutely. Oscar, so there is a question that wants to know, does the veteran have to pay to work with the vet's benefits guide?
Yeah, great question, Deanna. So the short answer is yes. Um, the more in-depth answer, the actual invoice amount, it just depends on the amount that you get increased. So uh, it starts off, both programs are a little bit different. The new claims program is a little bit more affordable because there's no doctor's appointments involved. There's no work from our quality assurance department involved. And so that one, I believe right now is starting at $1,700 for a 10% increase, and it goes up about $500 for every 10% increment. The increased claim program, I believe, starts at $2,700 right now, and it goes up in $1,000 increments for every 10% increase. With that being said, it's a one-time fee. We've heard of other companies that charge. I was just at a retirement ceremony for he retired as a first sergeant this past weekend, and I was talking to some of the Marines that he served with. He did 20 something years, and some of the Marines that he served with are saying that there's companies out there that the difference in the pay that you make. So let's say you were at 40% making $400, and you go up to 100% making $3,400. That $3,000 difference, there's companies that will take those $3,000 for 6 months, which is a lot of money. Our
Ex-
yeah, our company, first and foremost, our fees are disclosed on the very first day. You will actually sign a paper acknowledging the company fee chart, and it's a one-time fee. Our average invoice amount is less than $5,000. It's a one-time payment, and to kind of put it into perspective, I had a husband and wife that came through the program. He was at 70%, she was at 30. They went through the program together, kind of like the buddy program, and both got to 100%. They went from making $1,700 tax free every month to over $7,000 tax free every month.
Whoa.
The invoice amount for both combined, since they are in the same household, was about $15,000. Well, the husband's back pay covered that. They still got to reap the benefits of the wife's back pay. And over the next 20 years, they're making like over $2 million tax free off of that $15,000 investment.
Wow.
I know cryptocurrency is kind of crazy right now, but I mean, find me something else that gives you that kind of return. It's ridiculous.
No, that's
So
awesome.
and it's a one-time fee. There's no charge up front. It's paid at the very end. If we are successful in getting you the increase, we'll talk about the invoice amount prior to sending you to the accounting department. If we're not successful, there is no charge. If we are not successful the very first go around, we don't appeal because we are not attorneys, but we do have other means to rebuttal the VA claim, which is no additional charge to the veteran. Um, and so our process typically takes about 6 to 8 months just on our end alone. You still have to go through the time that it takes at the VA to wait a decision. But nonetheless, I have my contact information in the chat for anybody that's interested. I would love to talk to you, kind of give you a free assessment, and then just let you know if there's anything that we can do to help you out, what your options are. If not, refer you out to other sources.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, for Alan, we do have a question about do you have to be a veteran to
No,
be part of the
no,
American?
you do not. Um, I spoke about the American Legion. I spoke about the American Legion Auxiliary. And I use the word family again, because another other part of the American Legion family is the SAL, Sons of the Legion. And the sons is comprised of sons, nephews, uncles, grandsons, whatever it might be, of veterans. And it could be a World War II veteran, it could be a Korea, anybody who's a veteran. If their mom or dad was a veteran, if if their great grandfather was a veteran, they are eligible to become a part of the American Legion family. And just about every post in the country, every American Legion post in the country is comprised of the Legion, the auxiliary, and the SAL. Okay, and yes, there are some dues. The dues are minimal amount for SAL as they are for the auxiliary, but you pay to be a member. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to be a veteran to be a member. What you need is that appreciation and that spirit of volunteering and that feeling that you want to do something to give back. You want to make some kind of contribution. So to answer the question, no, you don't have to be a veteran to be a member.
Okay, great. Through the auxiliary and the Sons of the Legion, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Got it. All right, great. Do we have any other questions coming through?
I had a quick question for Oscar, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It's a two-parter, actually. So one is, do you service active duty and veterans all throughout the United States, or are you particular to a region? And then part two is, how do they get the process started? Is it something they can just go to that website that you shared and start there?
Yeah, great question. So for short story, yes, we offer all 50 states, all 50 states. So we have doctor networks and we're always actively recruiting. We have a specific department whose sole purpose is to recruit and train medical providers and onboard them so that we can continue to serve virtually anywhere across all 50 states. If for some reason we have a doctor that falls off um, for some reason, we can always plan, if the veteran has a pre-planned trip and they may be somewhere where we have a provider, we can, schedule accordingly and make sure that they get seen. As far as getting started, we have the website that I posted in the chat. You could call me directly and just we'll create a profile for you, generic questions that you'll be able to answer off of the top of your head and get your ball rolling. For the increased claim process, you have more control over the file since you're already service connected. I like to break it up into four steps for the veteran. One is just getting the initial documents out of the way. Two is getting the disability list. Three is filling out a medical questionnaire so we can determine the severity of your condition. And then number four is getting you seen by a medical provider. Once we get that out of the way, everything else is done behind the scenes here at Veterans Benefits Guide.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other?
It can all start with a phone call.
That's all it is. Kristen, I did have a question for you.
Yeah.
How long is the process for K9 and what's the selection process for that?
So as far as the application process, like that time framing, so once you, let's say you apply for a service dog, we actually give you 60 days to turn all the documents in. So it's kind of multiple parts, but the first part is an online application. It's not too bad, right? Because you're just filling out information about yourself, but we ask lots of questions. We want to know who you are, where do you live, who's in the household with you, not only family members, but pets as well. Because remember, as we start going through the process of, hey, if you get approved, we need to make sure we're pairing the right dog with you. So for an example, if you have an alpha dog at home and we pair you with an alpha dog here, not going to work out very well when you get home. So if you had more of a submissive dog at home where, hey, I get along with everybody, fantastic. So that's why we ask a lot of questions about, once again, who's in the household, where do you work, where do you go to school, what kind of environment. So we ask a lot of questions there. as far as paperwork. So we do require that you turn in your DD 214. We require 2 different doctor's notes, one from a primary care physician, and it's a report that we send to the veteran. The veteran gives to the doctor and says, hey, can you fill this out for me? And then they send it back to us. So they're fully aware of what the doctor's talking about. And then same idea with the mental health provider. So we do require that there's verification of the diagnosis, because same thing, right? We do want to make sure that it's going to veterans more on the mental health side. So they do have to have a diagnosis of service-related PTSD, a TBI, or MST. So one of those variables. So that's turned in. And then there's other things like, hey, give us references so we can call. Hey, if you happen to have an emergency situation, like, hey, I have to go into the hospital and have surgery. Well, a dog can't go into a sterile environment. So we have what's called an agreement to support form. So basically, you have 2 people outside of your emergency contacts that either you can or we can contact in case there's a situation that arises, which is good. We actually on Friday afternoon was scrambling to find somebody to cover a dog. Gentleman was in the hospital, had a heart attack. Wife and husband were separated. So wife tried to take the dog to her house. Well, she has a cat and the dog does not like cats. So that didn't work out well. So we were scrambling because guess what? That was before we started that form. So it's a matter of how do we get this, figured out. So lesson learned for moving forward, but that's definitely been something we've been covering over the last, several years. But yeah, once that's done and you have your 60 days to turn all that in, it's reviewed by 4 leadership members, basically to go through and, make sure that we're the right fit for what you're looking for and what you need. The hard thing is we are on a 4-year wait list right now. The average service dog time frame is about 2 years, and that's what we were pre-COVID. But as with everything else, COVID slowed everything down. And so we're about 4 years. But once again, we have San Antonio that's now up and running. Phoenix is coming in the next 6 to 12 months. And then I forgot to tell you, right here in Jacksonville, we're actually building a mega kennel. So where we are right now, we house about 60 dogs. That's 60 dogs we can house and train at a time. Once that mega kennel is completed, that location, which is only 3 miles away, will house another 150 dogs. So that means we'll have over 210 dogs we can be training with at a time, working with them, getting them ready for the warriors that are coming through our class. So once that's up and running, which we actually just had the ribbon cutting for phase 1, and phase 1 is already going to double our numbers. It's going to have about another 60 to 70 kennels right now, and we're actually going to be moving over there in the next couple weeks. So very exciting time. So that 4-year wait list, I always tell everybody, like, don't get hung up on that, because as more and more of these things, roll out, those lists, those class dates will actually be moved up. So we always say it's a tentative class date, just to make sure everybody's aware, like, no, this is very flexible. Because sometimes we are calling and saying, hey, we have more dogs that are ready in San Antonio. Let's get some more warriors. So we may be calling you and saying, hey, Oscar, any chance you can come to our July class or our August class? And we're moving people up constantly. But right now, if you got approved for our program, it is 2026 that we're booking out right now.
Awesome. Time flies.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, thank you all for being here and sharing with us. I think you guys have given a lot of people comfort that there are programs and things that are out there to help spouses, help the veterans, help our families after service, because we're all now turned real estate agents. So,
Right.
but yeah, and this information was just amazing.
Well,
And
thank you
really
for inviting me, and as I'm sure I speak for Oscar and Kristen as well. And I hope that what I shared was helpful. And anybody, believe me,
absolutely.
anybody out there is welcome to reach out to me, and I am more than happy to help in any way and every way I can. There are no state boundaries as far as the veteran community is concerned.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Have a great day. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.